It seems that the new Disney film, due to come out next year, is a complete abomination. And so I thought it might be fun and amusing to compare the spirit of the promotion of this new film, which is starring Rachel Zegler, to the original Snow White, which is called Little Snow White, written by the Brothers Grimm in 1812. Wouldn't that be amusing to see how the values contrast between this 19th century fairy tale, European fairy tale, and this 21st century feminist propaganda piece from Disney? The queen had always wished to have a daughter as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as ebony. So what does that mean? White as snow? I mean, that would mean pallid skin. Remember, this is written in Germany. Uh, Red as blood would refer presumably to her lips, ruby lips. And black as ebony, that might seem like a curveball, but what that really means is that her hair would be as black as ebony would. And indeed, that is how Snow White has been portrayed, as kind of pale with black hair and ruby red lips. Until Rachel Zegler, who might not exactly fit that description, which is fine. However, some people take issue with that, and you can see in the original text, indeed, it would make Zegler kind of an odd choice, but I'm fine with it. So as I said, the evil queen is asking her mirror who is the fairest of all, and at one point the mirror says, "You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but Snow White is 1,000 times fairer than you." At which point the evil queen sends Snow White out to the woods to be killed by a huntsman. However, and I quote, "Because she was so beautiful, the huntsman took pity on her and said, 'Run away, you poor child.'" So Snow White was not saved because she was a strong boss girl, or girl boss, sorry. She was saved because the huntsman took pity on her. Why did he take pity on her? Because she was beautiful. So that's very much like real life, you know. Men are suckers for a beautiful girl, and they're willing to kind of bend the rules, but it's just very contrary to the themes that we see developing for the film Snow White, which is supposed to be released next year. And ultimately, Snow White ends up in the house of the dwarves, and the dwarves also kind of take pity on her, and at first they're very irritated that she's in their house, but then they decide that she can stay with them under certain conditions. And the conditions that the dwarfs have are thus. They say, quote, "If you will keep house for us and cook and make beds, wash, sew, and knit, and keep everything clean and orderly, then you can stay with us, and you shall have everything that you want." And Snow White responds, "Yes, with all my heart." So they're giving her some pretty traditional housewife-type tasks. And Snow White is not angry. She doesn't start yelling at them. She says, "Yeah, that sounds like a good deal." So again, really, there's no hint of any kind of feminism in the original Snow White, I can report, based on this reading of the Brothers Grimm. It's not really a long read, by the way, so I encourage you to go read it yourself. Probably take about 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And it's very charming. Anyway, the evil queen realizes ultimately that Snow White was not killed as she was ordered to be, because when she asks her mirror again who's the fairest of all, the mirror answers, "You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but Snow White beyond the mountains with the 7 dwarves is still 1,000 times fairer than you." And now the evil queen is really mad, and so she has this ruse where she's going to wear a disguise and go to Snow White and try to poison her with a comb. What's funny is that once the evil queen realizes that Snow White is still alive, she comes up with these disguises to trick Snow White and then try to kill her. And Snow White is so naive that she continually falls for it. And the dwarves are like, "Look, just please don't let anybody in. Like, you have to understand that you're in danger." And Snow White, this is not to disparage Snow White, as written in the Brothers Grimm. It's kind of charming. She's endearingly naive because she's a good person, and therefore she wants to believe that everyone else is a good person. But they're not. So the evil queen tricks her by disguising herself as an old woman, and then she does that twice. And the second time, Snow White thinks that she's learned something, and she says, "Go on your way. I'm not allowed to let anyone in." But the old woman, which is really the evil queen, says, "You surely may take a look. Now let me comb your hair properly." And this is where the evil queen gives her this poisoned comb, which kind of puts Snow White into a comatose state, and ultimately she's saved by the prince. And that's another thing that Rachel Zegler doesn't like. She doesn't like to be saved by anybody. But in the original story, Snow White is very happy to end up with that prince, let me tell you. I want to end by saying this. I don't want to make this about Rachel Zegler. This is about Disney. There's something very sick about Disney as a company, and it's owned by Bob Iger, and he's the guy with the real power, okay? Rachel Zegler she's actually quite attractive, by the way. I think she's beautiful. I'd be happy to watch her on screen, despite the fact that she might not be like the traditional choice for casting this film. But anyway, so Disney is making people very angry, not just with Snow White, but with a lot of other things. Parents are upset about the sexual content on Disney, and understandably, if you have kids, you can relate that you just don't want them to view like R-rated content when they're toddlers. It's just weird and it's sick. But that's what this guy wants to do. And meanwhile, Disney Plus has been losing like millions of subscribers because people are just canceling it. They don't want it. People want wholesome entertainment. And you got Bob Iger. He is battling with Florida's Ron DeSantis, and he's very political, but he pretends that he's not political. He's like, I just want to make entertainment, getting involved with the Florida so-called Don't Say Gay bill, which is not really like an accurate characterization of it. But I just find it amusing to go back into the original Snow White and look at the text, and I think we can all agree that it has nothing to do with feminism. It has nothing to do with girl bosses. If anything, Snow White is just a sweet, innocent, beautiful girl, and that's how she should stay. My name is Michael McCara. Thank you so much for watching. In the description, you can find a link to my website, michaelmccarablog.com, where I talk about literature and even grammar a little bit and opinion. Follow me on Twitter. That is also in my description. And finally, like and subscribe to my channel.